next session will be on another very important topic, smart mobility. First of all, may we invite Mr. Adam Leishman, Chief Executive Officer of Bravo Transport Services, to give a presentation entitled Hydrogen Buses, Hong Kong Zero Emission Solution. Let's welcome Mr. Leishman. So before our speaker coming to join us here, I would like to remind our audience once again, today's session here will be conducted in both English and Mandarin. So if you do need a headset, we have simultaneous interpretation services provided, and if you do need a headset, you can borrow one at the counter just right next to the entrance. And for our online participants, you can also make good use of the interpretation button so that you can hear from different language channels as well. So if you do have a question, please feel free to make use of the Q&A function and to post your questions. You may be having your questions answered during the session, or you'll be receiving an email answered your questions individually. Well, today in the afternoon session, we have covered just now on one very important topic, which is on quantum computing. And in this session, we're going to have several speakers covering smart mobility for us. So in this first session, before our speakers joining us today, let me give you a preview of the next two sessions as well. The next session will be on transforming Hong Kong International Airport into a smart airport city. We're going to hear from an expert about how we're turning the Hong Kong airport into a smart one, and that must be very interesting and exciting for everybody. The next session, we're going to learn from another speaker on 5G cellular vehicle to everything and connected autonomous vehicles as well. So that session will be actually spoken and shared by another speaker who will be conducting in Putonghua, so stay tuned. And right now, let's have the next speaker for our session first. And we'll be introducing to you Mr. Chris Young, General Manager, Data Analytics, General Manager, Smart Airport of Airport Authority Hong Kong. Mr. Young will speak on transforming Hong Kong International Airport into a smart airport city. Please welcome Mr. Young.
First of all, thank you very much for Invest Hong Kong to invite us to the stage to share with all of you. We really miss you for quite a few years already. Hope you also miss us as well at the airport. After listening to the first two speakers, Professor Chen and Professor Zheng, all about quantum technologies, I suddenly have an idea, probably in the future, smart airport, I should change it to quantum airport. Will be more smarter in the next era, right? So apart from the very, the science laboratory aspects, today I'm going to share with you the application side of the technologies and how does it really benefits how you travel and change your travel experience. Now, the COVID really hit us hard, hit the industry, aviation industry hard. If we look at it, what had happened to us? In terms of before the COVID, our energy, our technology are aimed to solve our capacity problem at Hong Kong International Airport. We had 33 million passengers in 2019 before COVID. And we make use of technology to improve and uphold our asset utilization in order to handle more passengers within the same capacity limit. However, now changed. We have lots of capacity, and more capacity is coming with the 3RS, the third runway. So our focus is actually changed to regain our market share. We have the capacity. Capacity limit is not a problem anymore, but we need the market back. Create passenger experience. We are no longer working alone within ourselves, but we are creating a personalized end-to-end journey, making you think of the airport city as a whole for your end-to-end journey. And the third, of course, when we talk about cost efficiency after the COVID, the whole airport staff has been shrunk by 25% in terms of the manpower. It was 73,000 people before, and today we're just with 53,000 left. And of course, you can look at the job fairs. Cathay Pacific has been working extremely hard, and airport authorities really working hard to hire sufficient resources to create the momentum for the aviation industry to resume. So doing with all this, digital innovation is the key in upcoming time. Now, let me share with you some of the new experience that you're going to see when you travel again to the airport. In the past 5 years, we spent 5 years past to automate for your check-in, departure, check-in until boarding process since 2016. So we make use of create our patented kiosk, smart check-in kiosk. Here, the name is called iCUS. Probably is a terminology that you won't need to know. It's our industry terminology, but it's a smart check-in kiosk. And then self-service backdrop, e-security gate using the facial recognition, and very soon your experience is the touchless immigration. Probably it will announce in the next few weeks, right? So we connected them all through from the beginning check-in until you depart and board your flight using your face. It will become your token. The first time you check in using your boarding pass, and get your boarding pass and show your passport, you can put it into your pocket and use your face, and we'll know who you are and allow you to board. So we take 5 years to automate all this. Let's have a look. Starting from your check-in, using the kiosk. Once you successfully check in, you've got your boarding pass, then you use your face to drop your bag. You don't even need to touch the tablet, and we know who you are. That shortened the bag drop to 20 minutes. Sorry, 20 seconds. 20 minutes is too long. Afterwards, just feel free to get into the security check, showing your face only. Put your boarding pass and passport into your backpack. Inside the immigration, this video hasn't been shown here yet, but it's going to, we skip the immigration part and go directly to the boarding and just show your face. In fact, using we call it the flight token. We make the boarding process shortened by half. Boarding a A380, it takes probably about 25 minutes only for all the about 500 passengers. And in the upcoming time, we do more. We go beyond simply a flight token, and we can even eliminate the smart kiosk, replacing it with your mobile phone. So you can drop your bag even on your mobile phone. Once this is a proof of concept we've jointly conducted with one of the airlines based in Hong Kong here. So once you've done the mobile check-in, on the airline's mobile app, then your token will be enrolled. You go straight to the self-bag drop counter and drop your bag with your mobile phone. And all the information, your weights, the luggage weights will be shown on your mobile app. And everything will be touchless. Once you receive your bag, you can look at it. This is your receipt of your bag. So never is paperless. I would say upcoming, this is coming, probably around end of the year or early next year, we'll at least have one airline to be able to start this service. Now, the self-service check-in actually not just improve shorten the process time or shorten your queue time at the airport, but also equally important, it boosts up your passengers' retail time. We plot the data from, according on the left-hand side, the dwell time in the check-in zones, the dwell time you stay at the check-in zones versus the time spent in the retail zones. Of course, we all know the longer time you spend at the check-in, the less time you can spend at the retail zone, right? It's an inverse proportional curve. And we take the 95 percentiles. In fact, what we found is last week, our data showed that the average, check-in dwell time, it's 55 minutes here. And if you choose to use the self-service, the flight token, or even if you check in off the airport, then you come to the airport hands-free, go straight inside the security and restrict the area. Then the time that you are affordable to spend in the retail zones doubled. So it's really, for us, it's not only improving the passenger experience, but creating potentially retail revenue. So do welcome to use the self-service. Now, my HKG, the app, it is an indispensable part of your journey traveling at the airport. Once you got into the airside, get into the retail areas, you want to shop, dine, don't worry. We will remind you your flight is going to board at far gate 60, for example, and it's time for you to move. So just feel free to shop. The AR wayfinding, of course, for many of you are very familiar with the airports here, but for other passengers, visitors, they do need assistance. So self-service. And recently, we also launched a new innovative service. We call it the flight delay insurance, and also COVID-19 insurance protection, jointly with an insurance partner locally in Hong Kong. And what you experience is if your flight delayed for over 6 hours, you get $300 cash, free of charge. No insurance premium you need to pay. Very simple. All you need to do is just go inside and register, and that's it. That's it. And you don't need to claim. You don't need to ask the airlines to show you the proof of your flight it has been delayed. It's all automatically because we know the flight schedule, and we know you have bought such an insurance, and it will automatically deposit to your bank. All right. COVID-19 insurance also the same. In fact, the insurance company provide 2,000 Hong Kong dollars for compensation if you caught COVID, provided that you stay in hospital, right? Not at home. Then you get $2,000. Okay. Queuing status, we make use of the big data to let you, go which channel is faster, and there are a lot of more personalized experience in the app. In terms of all this digital innovation, we're going to expand it to cover the airport city. So as you probably realize, the K11, the New World Development Group, they have already going to launch their 11 Skies, the biggest mall in Hong Kong, It's about 3.6 million square feet. Huge. That's really huge. It's going to be a destination in Hong Kong that you have to go, right? So it contains of dining, retail, experience, all together. And we have a new hotel already launched, the Regala Hotel. Asia World Expo, it's going to start its phase 2. The phase 2 is going to have a new stadium, arena, that it will be double the size of the Hong Kong Stadium. So it's going to accommodate over 20,000 people at the same time. Now, moving on beyond the scene, it's about operations. This is just to show you some of the things that we have been done over the past 3 years. Our effort of digitalization never stopped.
There's no driver or passenger in the cabin, but still, this tractor is running between
autonomous
Skypier
tractor
and the baggage
carrying
hall at
baggage.
Terminal 1 at a
This is
speed of 20
carrying baggage.
kilometers per hour to deliver baggage for air-to-sea and sea-to-air passengers. It's the autonomous electric tractor at Hong Kong International Airport.
First in the world,
The AET
airport
started
put into
operating at
operation.
the airport on the 30th of December 2019. It's the first to be put into live operation at an airport anywhere in the world.
咁呢個我哋經過差唔多年半嘅測試，測試晒全部嘅不同情況，24小時不同環境，我哋確保冇問題啦，我哋終於咧投入服務。
因為好多交通意外咧，都係因為長期工作啦、疲累啦、環境唔好啦，例如咧大雨大霧都會產生意外嘅。咁所以我哋從用人咧減少意外啦、提升效率咧去諗。
The AET is equipped with a highly accurate DGPS system that has a range of error of just 10 to 15 cm.
任何嘢喺個車10米範圍以內，佢即刻剎停。even人你都未必做得到，因為佢一路 detect， 由10至35咧 detect 咗咧，佢就開始計算啦。佢開始咧就落 brake， 佢就唔係剎停佢喎，減慢速度，去到10米範圍以內咧就剎停。
There are 2 sets, a total of 8 HD cameras mounted on the sides of the AET, and 3 LiDAR sensors to ensure safety and flexibility. By the first quarter of 2021, all traditional baggage tractors operated manually at Skypier will be replaced by AET tractors, delivering baggage for Skypier passengers.
So in the next 3 to 5 years, we are going to expand the fleet, autonomous fleet, to over 100, carrying not only the baggage, but also all the cargoes. So reducing the reliance on the manpower. Second is we make use of the big data. We launched our newly expanded airport control center, the 7x24 control center. And you can see in the video wall here, we have over 30 real-time KPIs, operational KPIs monitoring, including the queue time, passengers queue time, even the traffic on the Lantau Highway. We are all using our data to monitor real-time if any traffic congestion there. So this is one of the, and the new size of the airport control center, it has been doubled of the previous one. And it also further incorporates not only the airport authority staff to work here, but also airlines, key airlines, including the air traffic control tower staff from Civil Aviation Department too. Almost the last, in terms of the big data, we are also making use of the Wi-Fi data to understand the passengers' behavior. So you can see from here, for example, I captured the statistics from last week. Comparing to COVID, pre-COVID, the total journey for departure, it's 146 minutes before your flight to depart. And compared with pre-COVID, it's 155 minutes. It's a little bit less, but if we look at the breakdown, time stay in the Shopping and dining, of course, reduced by 56% and 41%. There's nothing to shop. Most of the shops have been not yet open, but we are opening, right? Okay. In terms of the check-in time, it's still 55 minutes compared to pre-COVID average of 43 minutes. So the airport, it's hiring back sufficient, yet to hire back sufficient people to handle your check-in. So do come to airport a little bit early. But the good news is, if we look at the red line here on the check-in hall, it's reducing. The time is reducing. So we are working hard. So we do know every minute you spend at the airports, and we do care what you care along queue. Do trust us. Again, the data we got has no privacy, don't worry. It's all about Wi-Fi. We just know a whatever MAC address number. That's not you. Okay, lastly, it's also more on the robotics we deployed. The video here, we make use of the automatic robot a few years ago to handle the parts, the runway. In this case, is to retrieve runway lights spare parts for replacement, even during when the nighttime the runway has been closed. On the bottom middle, which is the terminal patrol robots, it patrols all over the terminal, detecting for the temperature, Wi-Fi connection, good or bad, or including in the future. It's about the facilities, lights is off, or water on the floor. Yeah, and we look for deploying more quantum technology to the airport in the future. So this is the end of my presentation. We fly again, and we fly high. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Liang. Thank you. We definitely look forward to experience the smart airport in person, right? We can't wait to fly again as well. Thank you so much, Mr. Liang. Next, we're going to invite Mr. Adam Leishman, Chief Executive Officer of Bravo Transport Services, to give a presentation entitled Hydrogen Buses, Hong Kong's Zero Emission Solution. Please welcome Mr. Leishman.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for this opportunity to share with you what we're doing at Citybus. Mission Zero is what we call it, our transition from diesel buses to zero emission buses, which means we are emitting nothing into the atmosphere, which is quite an exciting achievement if we can get there. So Bravo Transport, who are we? Bravo Transport is a new entity that was formed 2 years ago when Temple Water, Hans Energy and Ascendal is my business, acquired Citybus and New World First Bus. This was in the middle of COVID. Some would say, why are you buying a bus business in the middle of COVID? But it's an opportunity that we relish. My background, personally, I'm now the CEO of Bravo, but previously I've run buses in Singapore, in London. I've been involved in a transport company in Australia, and I have an advisory business that has helped over 40 cities around the world with public transport systems. Hong Kong, you may not know, is the #1 city in the world when it comes to the number of trips used on public transport systems. So 9 out of every 10 trips used in Hong Kong are on the public transport. That ranks at #1 in the world. So Bravo, our business, we have 1,700 buses in Hong Kong, most of which are double deck. We operate over 300 routes. We carry over 1 million people a day on average, which is, when you put it in perspective, each year we're carrying over 360 million people, which is quite significant. We have about 5,000 staff. We operate in every district in Hong Kong, and we operate over 155 million kilometres each year. That's one bus driving around the world 4,000 times, or almost, to put it in perspective. So what are we doing about Mission Zero and moving to zero emission buses? Well, we actually have a 4-part strategy. It's not just about moving to zero emission buses. There's other things that we're focused on. 4 things. First of all, immediately what we're working on right now is moving all our Euro 4-5 buses up to Euro 6 standards by putting converters on the exhaust. This is a real immediate impact that we can have because Euro 6 emissions are much lower than Euro 4 and 5. At the moment, we've converted all Euro 4 and we're working with the government to convert Euro 5. That's an immediate impact. Secondly, we're now starting to test and trial different zero-emission bus options, and that's what I'll talk a bit more about in this presentation. But we need to get the data. We need to understand the issues facing Hong Kong, which are very unique, and I'll explain. Thirdly, once we have the data, we can develop the strategy of how we roll out across 1,700 buses. And fourthly, and I always put this in presentations because it's a narrative that's often forgot, we're very focused on the green agenda, sustainability, and moving to zero-emission economy. Actually, if we just transitioned 5% of users on the road system from cars to public transport, we would have more impact than converting 1,700 buses to zero emission. And so actually getting modal shift and more people using public transport, not just in Hong Kong but globally, is a passion of mine because we can have a massive impact environmentally, not to mention many other benefits. So why is Hong Kong unique? Well, firstly, it's very hilly. You all live here, you know what I'm talking about. It's a very challenging environment to operate buses in. Add to that the hot weather, which is quite extreme. There's a huge drain on the energy used in buses. Thirdly, there's a very high passenger demand. So you can't hide weaknesses in services that are low frequency. In other words, we have to operate pretty much around the clock a high frequency service. And then finally, there's a limited land supply and an extremely high valuation attached to that land. So unlike operating in a lot of other cities, we're very exposed as a bus operator when it comes to the cost of real estate. And I'll explain why that's quite relevant in a little bit. So what have we done so far? You've probably seen on the news this year quite a bit of public interest about what we've been doing. We've just introduced at the start of this year Hong Kong's first ever double-deck electric battery-powered bus. And that's now in operation. You may have seen it driving around the streets of Hong Kong. It's been received very warmly. The customer experience is actually fantastic. It's very quiet, it's very comfortable. But there's plenty of challenges in operating it in Hong Kong, and I'll explain. Secondly, a couple of months ago we introduced Hong Kong's first ever hydrogen fuel cell double-deck bus. In fact, it's the first ever in the world with a tri-axle double-deck hydrogen bus. Both of these vehicles, we've had to work very closely with the manufacturer to design in a way that's compliant with Hong Kong regulations. The rules in Hong Kong are quite different to other locations. The roads, the widths, the weights. So it makes it quite onerous to be able to bring these types of vehicles to Hong Kong, and we've had to get heavily involved with the manufacturer to design in a way that's suitable for Hong Kong. We've actually also, I think, started a lot of discussion around hydrogen as an industry in Hong Kong, because at the moment it's non-existent. And one of the reasons we have been pushing for hydrogen fuel cell, and I'll explain a little bit more on the next slide, but there's only really two options available to us now when it comes to zero-emission buses. One is the electric battery bus, and one is the hydrogen fuel cell bus. So there's been a lot of focus on electric-powered buses, but we need to look at the options because we're not convinced that battery electric is the answer for Hong Kong. And without hydrogen, we don't have another option to look at. So when we approached the government last year and said we'd like to look at hydrogen buses, and I've got a background in running hydrogen buses since 2011 in London, we were running hydrogen buses. The response was, well, we don't have hydrogen established as an industry in Hong Kong, so we need to look at this. And to the government's credit, they've put a huge amount of resource into setting up a task force looking at the hydrogen industry as a whole. How do we source hydrogen? How do we distribute it? And how do we regulate it? So at the moment, we can't actually operate this bus in Hong Kong, although we've brought it here, we've shown it around, but we had to pull all of the hydrogen out of the tanks to be compliant. But the government is hoping to, at some point next year, have regulations in place to allow us to start trialling these buses, which is very exciting for me. From a hydrogen fuel cell perspective, how does it work? How does a hydrogen bus work? It's actually an electric bus, in many regards similar to a battery-powered electric bus. The difference is basically we store electricity in a battery, which then powers the electric motors in the bus. Compared to with a hydrogen fuel cell bus, we have a fuel cell on the bus, we have hydrogen in tanks, and the hydrogen is put through the fuel cell and it converts to electricity. So the electricity is created on the bus, which then powers the electric motors. And the byproduct is water that comes out the exhaust. So it's extremely healthy from an emissions perspective. So there are actually two electric buses, just with the source of electricity coming from different places. So when we look at the comparison, and this is what we're going through right now as we do the trials and tests, what works for Hong Kong? Because we're a commercial company, we need to be viable as a business, and that means we need investments to stack up and make sense. And one of the challenges as we transition to a zero-emission economy is that actually we can reduce emissions to nothing, but that takes a large investment. But the return from that investment, as purely from a commercial perspective, is arguably nothing, because our fares remain the same. We're not getting extra passengers by having cleaner exhaust. So we need to think through this. How can we quantify what the additional cost is? How can we bridge that funding gap? And how can we implement it in a way that doesn't compromise the operation as well? Because actually, one of the worst outcomes possible, and we've seen this recently in London and Paris, where there are 150 electric buses were recalled because of fires that were being sparked. And actually, what does that do for a public transport system? Remember what I said at the start. If people go out of buses back into cars, we'll actually have far more emissions. In fact, we'll have far more other issues as well, congestion, particulates, which come from tyres and brakes and exhaust, which actually affects the air quality around us that we breathe, not the emissions, but what we breathe, and actually leads to younger death rates, let's say. So when we compare the three options, let's have a quick look at some of the issues we have. The infrastructure costs obviously are much higher when you go electric and hydrogen. Electric is the blue button and the green one is hydrogen. The Euro 6 is the red one. Vehicle costs are like double the price when you look at electric and hydrogen compared to diesel. Battery costs for electric are much higher, and there's a bit of an unknown attached to that because we're going to have to replace batteries through the life of the vehicle. So that's quite a large expense actually that's added to the overall cost of running the bus. The other hidden cost when it comes to batteries, and if anyone's seen our double-deck battery electric, and it's on display this weekend actually, there is a loss of seats because we have to have a much larger storage area of the batteries. So actually the capacity of the bus reduces, which means for a high-frequency service, we need more buses, which we need to factor into the equation. The maintenance costs are actually much lower because you've got the electric motors as opposed to the diesel where you've got an engine that you have a lot more moving parts to maintain. And the fuel costs, this is one of the biggest negatives for hydrogen, particularly now in the infancy stage of the industry, is the cost of sourcing fuel is extremely prohibitively expensive, and we need the industry to catch up to us to be able to bring that cost down. And then you get into the discussion with regards to grey hydrogen versus blue hydrogen versus green hydrogen. Green hydrogen being the low emission sources, whereas blue and grey come from fossil fuel and non-renewable sources. And that also is an expensive exercise when you start getting to green hydrogen, although there's a lot of investment coming. Then you look at the additional vehicle and parking costs. Like I mentioned earlier, with the drain on batteries when it comes to the heat, the air conditioning we operate. So what we're seeing right now with the battery electric bus is when we do short distances, when the doors are opening up regularly and the cold air is escaping and we need to keep the air conditioning on, actually it's reducing the range of the vehicle by almost 50%, which is a massive impact. So when we look at a diesel bus, we're travelling over 300 kilometres a day. The diesel bus will get refuelled in the evening, will stay in the depot overnight or wherever it's parked. We'll go out in the morning and have a long day's service. Well, actually, with an electric bus, we're getting between 1 and 180 kilometres a day, depending if it's a long distance service or a short distance service, and depending how many passengers. So you can imagine if the bus has to keep operating, but then it needs to be charged for 4 hours in the day, we need another bus to come and replace it to operate the same service without losing the ridership and keeping to serve the community. So that's a big hidden cost that we may need a much larger fleet to operate the same service, which is what I'm talking about with hidden costs. There's quite significant hidden costs when it comes to the battery electric bus, which is one of the hopes we have in hydrogen, because I think that could be one of the biggest reasons battery electrics struggle in Hong Kong, whereas hydrogen will operate almost 300 kilometres a day. You're getting the same outcomes similar to a diesel bus. So the biggest negative for hydrogen is the cost of fuel. But we're hopeful that with investment and the industry catching up, that fuel cost can come down and it can be actually a very good alternative to diesel. Then if you look at the other factors, we've got the emissions. Obviously electric and hydrogen are both zero emission, although, big caveat, we need to look at the fuel source, not just the use in the bus. Is the electricity coming from zero emission sources, from green sources? Same with hydrogen. And in some cases, we need to look at that as a stepping stone. We might have the technology, but actually we're still waiting for the source to become green. Use of fossil fuels the same, and as I mentioned before, the range is a big issue. So you can see it's very complex, and there's a number of other issues I haven't put up there, but you can see it's a very complex equation when we start looking at this. And then you've also got things like battery degradation and how do you plan for a service when the range of the bus is dependent on multiple factors. So what are we going to do about this? We're trying to be very proactive. The government's announced by 2050 that they would like a zero-free economy, carbon-free economy. We've given ourselves a target to achieve that with our buses by 2045. That's fairly ambitious. The bus life in Hong Kong is 18 years. So that means we need to be starting to order only zero-emission buses by 2027, which is not long. So in the next 5 years, we're planning to do a lot of trials, a lot of tests on the options to understand the issues in more detail, to understand the funding gap and to come up with a solution to solve that. As I mentioned earlier, we've already launched the first 2 of their kind with the double-deck electric battery bus and the hydrogen bus, and we're hoping to have that hydrogen bus operating next year, second half of next year, hopefully, and starting to collect the data. So that's where we're at. It's quite exciting to be part of such a transition like this, but I always say we need to hasten slowly. The worst thing that can happen is we rush in, make mistakes, and we end up pushing people away from a public transport system back into private cars, and we end up much worse off than where we started from. So we're trying to do this wisely, trying to collect all the data and the information we can, and then implement a strategy that's well thought through and trying to execute that to perfection. So that's our story. That's where we're at. I hope you enjoy that presentation. I'm happy to take questions later.
Thank you very much, Mr. Liechner. Thank you. Please be seated. It's definitely very exciting, as you said, and we look forward to see this transformation for our whole public transport as well. Thank you so much. Now we would like to invite Mr. Dongzhe Su, Chief Engineer of V2X System Communications Technologies at the Hong Kong Applied Science and Technology Research Institute, ASTRI. He'll talk about 5G cellular vehicle to everything and connected autonomous vehicles today. Mr. Su will be delivering his presentation in 普通话. Please welcome Mr. Su.
So is it better I speak in English? I see someone don't have a translator. Yeah, I think I keep in English. That's better. Okay. How do I click? Okay, this is the next one. Yeah. Thank you for this opportunity that Invest Hong Kong invited us to have this opportunity to share here that what we in Austria are doing for smart mobility and smart city. And the title today is a 5G cellular vehicle to everything and connected autonomous vehicles. And first, I will keep a short introduction of Austria. And Austria is the largest applied research science research institute in Hong Kong. And applied science means that we do research that focus on the technology can be applied and used in the public and in the city life of normal people. And we have more than 600 R&D members, researchers, and we have carried out more than 1,000 research projects. And actually, we do transfer technology to the industry. So you can see that we focus on the technology transformation we have like more than 1,000 patents granted, and we have more than 1,250 technology transfer to our partners. So we focus on 6 major areas, include smart city, fintech, health, reindustrialization, and integrated circuits, and metaverse. And of course, smart mobility is part of a smart city that I'm going to introduce more today. And for CV2X and CAV, so I'll first introduce what is CV2X. Actually, it is a communication system that being able to connect vehicles to everything, like vehicles to vehicles, vehicle to infrastructure, and vehicles to pedestrian, and vehicles to network, right? And with this highly reliable and low latency network, especially we get granted from OFCA, thanks to OFCA licensing us to have the ability to use the 5.9 gigahertz, which is the dedicated channel that a vehicle can use it to connect to other vehicles and infrastructure. And we also utilize the 5G connectivity, which has high bandwidth to enable all these multi-tier system to enable all the applications on the road. That you can see that, first of course, the safety use case is that vehicle that we use roadside system to notify a vehicle before it enters the area. If is there any danger or anything, it has to know ahead, right? And also for the efficiency, and the roadside system and the edge can manage it in large areas. So we can say that the global optimum of the smart mobility system can be achieved using the V2X system. So Austria's CV2X system, as I explained, we target to build an end-to-end system, but it is also modularized. For example, we have the in-vehicle system that can talk to the vehicle, connect to the CAN bus, or even if it's a modern vehicle that don't, in the future, there will be maybe no CAN bus anymore, right? And the whole in-vehicle system, we have the in-vehicle system to talk to it. And also we have the in-vehicle system to connect to the world and connect to the V2V, and that is the first tier and the vehicle tier. And also we go to a higher level, it's the roadside. We have the smart lampo, smart infrastructure, and we have all the sensor technologies can monitor environment. And we focus on we can adopt different sensor technology, right? In Hong Kong, generally, we don't use a camera because of the privacy issue. We use LiDAR and other technologies. And with this ability to understand the environment in a real time, we are being to push this info and to the vehicles. So that's what's happening on the roadside. And the next step is the MEC side, because we actually have our own 5G system. MEC manages a relatively larger area, maybe like 2 or 3 miles area. Maybe you have 20 or 30 smart lampposts and hundreds of vehicles, right? And its computing capacity is very high. And you can save your energy from computing, comparing to running on the vehicle, running on the roadside, right? You put it on the MEC, and you can do a lot of balancing and computing on that tier. And the upper layer, we have the CV2X management platform, which is which manages the city level platform. So all the data, all the trainings can be put at the data center. So we can say it's a multi-tier system, and we can work with our partners because some partners prefer to use some existing architecture. So these are all modular and can be applied to each environment. Yeah. So this is the example that we can see. The left part is the CV2X OBU that you can install on the vehicle. And in the coming 3 to 5 years, we assume that all the vehicles after they come to the market, they already install this device that capable of connect to the V2X and the 5G module. And also the RSU part that provides the 5.9 gigahertz communication, and also the edge computing part. So V2X technology, we see it not only applied to public transportation, that is the road safety and road efficiency, and it can also be used in, for example, the highway management. Highway is a place that you better know things much earlier than, because you are driving very fast, right? We know that in the world, while a lot of accidents are happening on the highway, just because, for example, some fog are coming, and you cannot see 200 meters away. And when one accident happens, another will come, another will come. Maybe 20 or 30 vehicles will crash together, right? And with the V2V and V2I technology, we can make all these things prevented because you know what's happening ahead, right? And of course, for airport and railway, and we know that airport is a very important area that we can apply this V2X technology, not only all those cargoes, but also where the passengers are coming, and you arrange the vehicles ahead when they come, right? And I know that the Skylink, the Sky City, and they are going to use autonomous vehicles there. So V2X can also help in these scenarios. And of course, we also developed the electronic road pricing technology along with our V2X roadmap, because positioning technology can be used for vehicles. For example, nowadays, if you enter an area that, for example, a tunnel, you need to charge, you need to pay, you have to stop. There is a gantry there, and you have to pay, right? And now with the ERP, we developed using CV2X technology. You don't have to do anything, and you don't need to install the gantry. You just drive, and all the charging areas can be dynamic, basing on the condition of the road. For example, in the Hong Kong Island, right? Maybe in some time it's very crowded, and you may only charge people for entering the area for 2 hours, and it can dynamically be arranged. That is the value of electronic road pricing. And for autonomous vehicle, we call it a connected autonomous vehicle. I will talk more later, because we see communication as an important support to make AV happen, really happen on the road. Yeah. So yes, this is about connected autonomous vehicle. So you can see the left circle that CV technology, we already have the end-to-end, the vehicle, the roadside, the edge, and the cloud, right? And we combine, if we combine directly with the autonomous vehicle, one can imagine that, okay, normally you're sending information to drivers, and now you're sending it to AV, right? But that is far more than this in CAV system where we are leading to. We call it the CAV system. First, vehicles and roadside can collaborate when it's AV. For example, it has its own monitoring system. And the roadside system also has a static installed sensors. So we call it cooperative perception using the V2V and V2I channel. And this can highly increase the safety and efficiency. Also, the policy negotiation. We don't have this need now because there are very little AVs on the road. But when the numbers increase, when two drivers are driving on the road, it's very easy that we two drivers that negotiate a access right on the road, right? I just wave hand, you go first. But when two AV comes, or many AVs come together, how do these AVs from different brand, different style, arrange their driving policy with each other? So policy negotiation will become more and more important for connected autonomous vehicles when the numbers increase. And of course, the CAV Center management platform, that how do you manage this scenario that AVs exist and people driving and robots in the future and pedestrian is extremely complicated. So it's better we have a CAV, center management platform. So these are the core model. Of course, there's a lot of other use cases we can enable, but we think these are the three are the core for connected autonomous vehicles. So yes, as I explained, Archery CAV, we see that it has to be able to connect different brand of AVs. And as Hong Kong is an international city, and it will come in different style of maybe robots on the road, and you should be able to communicate, and just you have to make sure that each one, when it's applied to its own self-interest, and the total optimized rule is going to be a global optimized. That is the purpose of balancing, how to balancing the self-interest with the global interest. And we have to support this common AV interface. And this is a use case example that we can see that each AV has its own sensing area, and it has definitely have its own perception blind spot it cannot monitor. But when it's connected to the roadside system, we have RSU, and it can monitor a very large area that its blind area is monitored. Of course, when a big AV, for example, two deck shuttle bus come in, right, it dynamically generated a blind spot because big buses has bigger blind spot, right? And so when the big bus has its own monitoring sensor system on it, it can help the roadside system to increase its coverage. So it's kind of helping each other, the moving sensors and also the roadside sensors. So that is called the cooperative perception. And another example is, a simple example is the CAV guided driving. We can see that if this AV is trying to go through the red line and get into that place, but there is an accident happening there. Normally when the AV goes there, it has to queue there, right? And when we have the V2X system, we got all this info in the, we call it V2X server, and we use the roadside system connect to the vehicle and notify it. And it can go through the purple line before it gets into the dangerous area. So yeah, this is the history that we have done CV2X and CAV. So we actually started related R&D in 2016, and we delivered the first city CV2X trial in Hong Kong. And also in 2018, the world's first city-level CV2X trial is delivered by ISTRI and partner in Wuxi, China. And it was reported by CCTV as the most advanced smart mobility system at the time. And in 2019, we started the AV-related trial in Science Park, Hong Kong Science Park. And we also, in 2019, we did the first CV2X and AV trial in Hong Kong Airport, supported by Hong Kong AA, Hong Kong T, and our partners. And recently, in 2021, we started these 14-mile public trials. And this is very important, and not only for Hong Kong, but also for the GBA, for the world, because we use this road to cover various road scenarios of Hong Kong. That because Hong Kong has very crowded city area, and it also has very beautiful city scene, right? Also the highway. And we picked this road that it has different scenarios covered, and we continue do public road tests to see that what kind of roadside system and V2X system could be used to support the future transportation. So here we already finished the first phase in May this year, and we started the next phase. In the next phase, we are going to support transportation vehicles, public vehicles, for example, the green minibus, and we hope in the future like the engineer vehicle, we are also going to support test enable V2X on these public vehicles. And for the Hong Kong Science Park, we are going to continue to upgrade it to make sure it has the most advanced technology here as the 5G CV2X trial site and test bed for Hong Kong. And we invited partners, and we work with them to deploy their latest technology here. For example, we work with various sensor technology partners, right? Also includes the universities in Hong Kong. And we have this 5G neuron platform that you can deploy various applications on it because it's, as I just explained, multi-tiered system. So we hope this could help and generate more use cases, not only smart mobility in the future. And moving forward, sorry, I'm running out of time. I'll get it quicker. We want to deploy CV2X and CAV smart mobility in more areas of Hong Kong. And we are looking into, for example, the Lantau Island. Of course, Hong Kong Airport is moving very fast in the world. And the Hong Kong Island, and we also talking into the Loop area. For example, in Hong Kong Science Park, this area we extend the current CAV trial. Not only in Science Park, we want to extend to the MTR station in the next 5 years. And it will be called the dedicated line CAVs. And also, this is Lantau Island. And this style of V2X CAV is different because it can not only be used for the normal people, but the tourists can take this AV to get a round trip there. And also, we can help the intelligent management of these AVs. And yeah. The next one is the Loop area, and we know that the communication at the kind of between Hong Kong and the GBA city Shenzhen is quite important, right? A lot of big vehicles are going through there every day. So the traffic rules are totally different. And we see the smart mobility area is an important time that we can use technology to make this much more efficient. So we have initiated a related roadmap and with partners to make this happen. You can see that we have this interconnection plan, and hopefully we will deploy related technology in the Loop area. So this year we have just initiated, it's called the Smart Mobility Interconnection Plan of GBA this year, and we are working with the Shenzhen Smart City Technology Development Group. They are maintaining all the CV2X, smart mobility, and AV site in Shenzhen. So us three and the partner will merge the two cities, smart city sites, and we will investigate how to build up the smart mobility rules to interconnect the two cities to make sure that Hong Kong people's experience not only supported by Hong Kong's infrastructure. When you drive to Shenzhen, your vehicle can also get service from the Shenzhen city. Right? That is what we are trying to do here. And we see in the vision of 10 years that, as I just explained, autonomous vehicles will become more and more on the road, and they will coexist with the normal driving vehicles. So a roadside system and V2X system will be very important to make sure that things are safely carried out. And also, we compare Hong Kong to other places in the world. We see Hong Kong in a place that we do have an opportunity to lead in the area, especially when it comes to the city management. Like the previous presenter just said that Hong Kong has the most powerful public transport system, right? And these systems are, if it's already advanced, it's very easy, or compared to other places, we upgrade to CV2X or smart mobility system compared to other places. And so we can say that Hong Kong has a very mature road infrastructure and network, and it has very advanced R&D capabilities, and also very professional road management systems. So these can make Hong Kong lead in the smart mobility area. So in a longer vision that we can see 20 years, right? Just imagine that we see that the city brain will become more and more important, because when we talk about autonomous vehicles and the robots, it's not only about the entity or the device now, how it can perform, right? And when these devices or vehicles become more and more, and we need the city brains to coordinate and to reduce the cost of computation, and more energy saving. So that is what we see, that the big trend, it will become that like the single vehicle or single robot into a city brain leveraged city in the future. So thank you for the first chance. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Su. Thank you for the presentation. So with that, it will end our smart mobility session here and also our afternoon program as well as today's whole program. Thank you once again to our distinguished guests and speakers for your insights and all the participants for your participation. Feel free to mingle and connect with our speakers and our guests here at Investment Promotion Week. Thank you once again for joining us. Tomorrow we're going to have more exciting program and it will be on Lifestyle and Creative Industries Day. Thank you very much once again. I'll see you tomorrow.